This chapter is going to be covering motivation, and I have posted the YouTube video which talks about motivation from a different perspective and in terms of self-motivation. And I've also posted a PowerPoint slide from SlideShare of the same TED Talk that's for the media reflection. And I really would like for you to sort of really take a look at both of those, because I think reading it and hearing it have different perspectives. So we're going to look at how motivation directs and energizes behavior. So when we think about motivation, we need to do some definitions. First is, what is motivation? And that can be defined as factors that direct and energize the behavior of humans and other organisms. And this can be included as behavioral, cognitive, social aspects. So the sort of the framework behind what the motivational factors are. Then there are the instincts. So what are these patterns that are innate, inborn, and biologically determined in our body? So we get thirsty so that we stay hydrated, things like that. And that this instinct approach is that the energy channels the behavior. So for example, if it's a really hot day outside, like it's been in Massachusetts and it's one of the worst droughts, your body is going to trigger you to drink water. So you're going to be motivated to drink water, right? Because you want to stay hydrated because it's so hot and you're sweating a lot. So one particular theory that is or approach is this drive reduction approach. We want to satisfy our needs. So thinking about this idea of this basic biological need, if you are it's the end of the semester, regular semester, and it's reading day, most of you probably want to take a big nap because you've been tired and you've been cramming. Or it's finals and you just finished and you're just exhausted. So your body will kind of spur you on to satisfy whatever you need so that you can be balanced. So in the drive reduction approach, the drive is defined as the motivation tension or the arousal. So this overstimulation that energizes or directs the behavior. So the primary drive, the biological needs of the body, and the secondary drive is related to a behavior that doesn't have an obvious biological need. So a term that I'm sure you've heard is homeostasis, so that your body maintains a steady internal state. And what that to me means is that it's a balanced state. So you are hydrated, you're fed, your temperature is regulated, you've had enough sleep. And how your body does this through your hypothalamus, and it uses the feedback loops of the afferent and efferent neurons, right? And also that it can be hormone regulated as well. Anyone watches Grey's Anatomy? I watch a lot of Grey's Anatomy. There's an episode of a guy who has a tumor on his thyroid, and the tumor on his thyroid makes him think that he is really thirsty all the time. So that throws off his sodium balance. So they have to, basically lock him down to the bed because his feedback loop from his thyroid, which has a tumor on it, is telling him to drink water. So now we're sort of moving away from this biological approach and looking at it from an arousal approach. So more of a cognitive, social, higher level functioning approach. Um, so we're trying to maintain a certain level of stimulation and activity. So if you go to a really loud party, you may want to leave or take a break. People also will seek arousal. So, daredevil, people who like to skydive, there's the thrill of the crime, right? You don't get caught. Gambling, driving fast. There has been a real, in the media recently, talking about, are you an extrovert, are you an introvert, and how that's in the workplace, and how that sort of your approach to arousal can determine what kind of work you do depending on what your career is and your company. So an incentive approach is that motivations pull. So there's something out there that you want. So it's a desire, you want rewards, so incentives, right? You go to, so the motivation is inspired by an incentive. You want to go shopping because there's a sale. You want to get a good deal, right? And the media and the marketing take advantage of this all the time. If you go to Old Navy, they give you, I don't know what they're called, but basically like Old Navy bucks, so that if you go back in the next 3 weeks, but you have to wait a week and you buy $70 worth of clothing, that you will get $20 off. But what they're really playing with is this idea of this motivational pull of, oh, I'm going to save money. However, you're still spending money to save money. And that this internal drive is proposed by the drive reduction theory. So a push and a pull behavior. So a cognitive approach is, what is the thought behind the motivation? So I am very motivated to make sure that you understand this material. That motivation determines my behavior so that I'm able to give you an auditory, a visual, critical reflection. I want you to be writing a glossary so that you're sort of learning the terms. I want you to be learning APA format, not just to be mean, but because I want you to be able to learn the format that is what we use in psychology, and so that you can adequately communicate to your audience. Also, you will be able to articulate what's your idea and what's someone else's idea, and give them credit, right? So, and I believe that the TED Talk draws on this, of the difference between intrinsic or extrinsic motivation. So some students may be doing really well because and working hard because they want a good grade. Some students may want to get the most out of the class because online classes can be expensive. Some people want to do well so that they can show their boss their transcript, and they can get out of a requirement for a work training, right? Those are extrinsic motivational things. Intrinsic, and I'm a real nerd, an academic nerd, is that I want to be a good teacher because I want you to learn and I learn from you. And I'm not saying this to be silly. It's really sort of, I've been amazed by all the media reflections and the media discussions, and I've gotten so much amazing insight and ways to think about and teach all of these basic topics, even your glossary terms. Intrinsic motivation for me. I find this very enjoyable. It's sort of my life passion. So Maslow's hierarchy is the ordering of motivational needs, so that there is this hierarchy or steps. And the goal, like the highest goal of it, is self-actualization, which means self-fulfillment. So, when I read your media reflections and I think, oh, that's a great point, that's a moment for me where I sort of feel self-actualized, and that I feel that as an instructor, I've been able to set something up so that you can be successful. Um, but the complex, that's a very complex, to get there is very complex. So you have to have your basic biological needs met before you can be self-actualized, before you can really be fulfilled. So you need to have your physiological needs met, then safety. You need to have a community. You need to be confident and have some esteem, and then you can be self-actualized. And so I've sort of gone through over my teaching years each, a step along the way. And so I'm going to end with this, that there are other approaches to motivation, and I want you to look at the self-motivation video, and that's about it for today.